Welcome back today. Namaste. Okay. We have a microphone as well.
Sometimes I feel so helpless because of the apparent impossibility of doing something which would result in something that we seek here. Even when you ask us to observe, to be the observer, when you told the story about Papaji, it almost seems like your sadhana was more about, doubting Papaji and, things happening of itself. It's like only grace itself could allow that revelation to be revealed. It's like life itself somehow. It doesn't choose to come into existence or do something in order to come into existence.
So your point is? First thing I would want to come in there is the idea that there is a time when there is not grace is not true. All is grace. And if you throw out this idea that, there's a time when there is not grace, then you will come to see. If you feel that there's a time when there's not grace, then you're going to be tortured. You're going to feel, oh my God, why doesn't grace come? It came for Buddha, but it didn't come for me. Maybe I'm not worthy. I'm not ready.
And the torture itself is grace.
Well, yes, it also will be an instrument of grace to remind grace that it is already grace. Maybe, you see? Like this. That there's only grace if you want to use this word, no? Yes. I mean, how does it feel when you hear that again, you see? That, there is not a moment which is ungraceful or ungracious, you see, where there's an absence of grace. Does it feel more heavy, the idea that grace may come one day, or that I'm swimming in grace?
Certainly the former feels more heavy.
Yes, of course it does. You see, it's like a fish asking, how can I get to the ocean? I hear there's an ocean. I hear there's an ocean here somewhere. And, I actually believe it. There is one ocean. And then it asks another fish, yeah, I heard about this as well too. I'm really into oceans. But there's actually a fish that knows the ocean. Maybe you go and ask this fish. And this fish says, yes. I mean, all is ocean, you see. It says, yes, but that's very, we've heard these ocean koans before. No. Can you take us really to the ocean? Or maybe better than that, a wave is asking, how can I reach the ocean, you see? A wave is asking, how can I reach the ocean, you see? Maybe I'm not big enough. Maybe my lifespan is too short. I know that this tsunami wave really came from the ocean, but I don't know if I have enough power to be a tsunami. So maybe not this life, I will not reach the ocean, you see. Finish? Huh?
I don't know. It feels so perfect in your presence that it doesn't feel like there was something that was finished, that needed to be finished.
What to say?
I was wondering if you would please elaborate on letting things be as they are, just as they are, and letting go of control, and how that leads to awakening.
Letting things be as they are, leaving them to move as they are, recognizing that they are as they are, and that I am as I am that observes them. Does not lead to anything. Even this idea of awakening, it's also will be also an idea also. It means that you are as you are. Then we may speak, oh, this is the state which was referred to as being awake. And you may need to hear that only once and then leave it. Don't think about awakening, don't think about enlightenment even, you see. Because when you allow yourself to see without interfering, without wishing things to be other than they are, then somehow your seeing becomes immensely pure and clean. It's empty of intention. It's empty of intention. And when it's empty of intention, also there is no tension. It's empty of intention. The seeing itself becomes silence. It's empty. See? Okay? So, in that recognition, even to say, okay, this leads to something, it's not necessary. You will see. There is just contentment. And that is called being awake to who you are, to what you are, to what is, if you want to see it like that. And what does it mean to leave things as they are, to see things as they are, to accept them as they are? Does it mean that you're capable of seeing things as they are? Or is it that whichever way things appear to you, you cannot help it because also you could not help the fact that conditioning arose here. And through this conditioning, what is also perceived through some interpretive medium, you see. And that also is things as they are. That conditioning also. Something has behaved through conditioning also. But that is observed, that's watched, that's witnessed. And that's just allowed to be whatever that is. What is important is where does the watching arise from, you see. What is behind the watching? Is there a watcher? Is there an entity watching? You can check it out and see. Is there merely just watching with no actual entity doing the watching, or is there just there's always an entity doing something? If there is always an entity even watching, something must watch that also. In order to say, yes, there is a little behind the screen, the yellow brick road, there's a little watcher watching. But then there must be also the knowing of that, and that must be earlier. So that needs to be recognized. By whom, I don't know. It just needs to be recognized.
What about, maybe I'm missing this, what about when there's identification with controlling a situation or person?
Yes.
How does that keep controlling? Does that keep you from awakening?
The obsession with the identity with that will obscure, it will eclipse that metaphysical intuition, the recognition of that. Because whatever your attention caresses becomes your experience, you see. Whatever the attention lands on becomes your experience. So as much as you're engaged with manipulating or doing something, then it's as though that itself is concealing that natural awareness, that you're only the awareness and not something trying to become aware even, you see. So I want to continue a little bit with what you've said there. You say, for instance, you name a certain tendency, which is a tendency to try and capture, to manipulate, to control something. And I've had this conversation with you already too, that when you identify with the controlling energy, I'm the one who wants to control, and I really want to stop it. I really would like just to give it up and just to be free of that. And everyone will accept you. Okay, you're really in trouble. Let's see what we can do to get you out of that situation, you see. But from the outset, I'm asking actually two things. One is you find out actually what is it that is actually needing to control. And that's not an easy question, because usually the assumption is enough. It's me. Boom, finish. What a silly question. Of course it's me. But the question comes again. What exactly is me? And I don't want just a conceptual or a verbal answer, you know. Really get inside. When you say me, find the controller. Does the controller exist, you see? Find it. How do you find it? First of all, the very energy of the controlling, the need to control, is the smell, is the scent that will take you to where? To the one who is the controller. Use it. Just like if you have a bad smell somewhere, you can sniff around, you find it in some dirty socks or something, or a dead rat. The smell will take you to that place. In the same way, that controlling tendency, that energy, find it, trace it back to where it's emanating from, and see if you can find the controller. Does the controller exist? You see, beyond the assumption, because usually when you think you know something, you don't really look. You just assume you know it. But I want you to follow it like it's the first time you're hearing that instruction. Follow it and see. Just don't assume, okay, yes, it's just me, and you know, let's start there. I say, okay, let's start there. Catch hold of what this me, what actually is me. Is it something tangible, palpable? Does it exist? Is it an entity that is there? Try it and look and see. You will feel this need to control something, or to, you know, to always know or understand what is happening. You know that energy. We all know it. We feel it. Who is the one who suffers from it? And you have to move beyond merely thinking about it. You may think, but also feel. Where is it? You may say that that energy is located somewhere here, and it's crackling along my shoulders and so on. Okay, fine, but who actually is suffering it? See if you can just catch hold of that and be quiet with it. And what you may find in being quiet and try to focus the attention on finding that sense of who actually is a sufferer here, you may find that the attention is jumping off into something, like almost as though it doesn't want to be found out. You go to look, who is that, and then suddenly you start to think of nice handbags or something. Then you come again, and it always seems like something is taking the attention off. But that is being observed. And gradually something settles down, and it is seen that somehow there is no center. There is no person. There is no one there. I'd rather hear it from you, because when it comes from you, then it is your own finding that there is no one here, and that is experienced, not a conclusion mentally. You actually experience, I cannot find it. I cannot find the one who is the controller, you see, like this. And in that non-finding of the controller, you see, even what is discovering even this? This is what is called inquiry, you see. What even discovers that there's no one there to be discovered? Does that itself have a form? And you come to see that there's only the discovering, that there's nothing to be discovered. And what makes this discovery? Nothing makes this discovery. This discovery happens somewhere in awareness. And all that remains is awareness. Awareness, presence, you see. This is inquiry. If that feels too difficult, then you may find out, like I say, something is aware of the controlling need. Okay? It arises in awareness. It arises in consciousness. It is watched, it's observed. What is that which observes this controlling tendency, see? And again, I say I don't want your answer, because the answer won't be it. The answer will just merely be another concept. So what is important is the question is important. Something observes. Now there is present strong need to panic or to identify with this, with wanting to control something. All the fear, all the bad smell of that is coming up, and I can see it. Who am I who sees it, you see? Just be quiet with that. The mind will jump and wants to answer this question like a child in class. It says, yes, yes, I know the answer. It says, no, I don't want the answer, you see. Allow the question to fully happen in you, to reveal if there is something there or not. Obviously, anything that arises for you, you must be there to observe it. That which is observing it, is it a person, you see? Now, I know sometimes this is always tricky because I can feel at times that in this inquiry, something is shot over your head. Like it's hard to focus on it. But with repeated efforts at looking and really being quiet, and using whatever it is that is the latent tendency, the habit, hold to the habit and see if there's one for whom the habit comes. Somehow that becomes more clear, increasingly clear. And there is a force about that, a beauty, a focus that happens in you. If not, then I say, don't scratch your head too much about it. It's good that I mention this thing, introduce it, remind you of it, but don't hand it over to your mind to carry out the instruction. You see, openness is the greatest teacher. Somehow, sometime in this kind of setting, this environment, where that focus is put now, and what we've mentioned before is somehow some recognition is taking place. Perhaps mind is in a crazy mode, but it's allowed to simple throb, pulsate. But now there's a recognition of a deeper witnessing of that, and an ease with that witnessing is present. And you know that you have the power to not run in fear, but to allow all this to happen. It can arise that somehow you feel like you're in the fire cooking somehow. I say, welcome this fire, be in this fire. It will only burn not you, but what you are not. Stay in this fire with folded hands. Burn. Don't try and work out how the fire, what the fire will cook, whether you will be well done or not, or yes. Okay. The microphone's here. Okay.
Hi. So the and then story was subtle. A little bit of buying this and then saying, okay, I want to return it. A little purchasing, a little bringing it back for a refund. No big fire, no. Doesn't seem like a manipulation. I know this is in manifestation, this process. And there's also the awareness that sees this process of buying and then remembering, oh yeah.
Yes. So does it need to be called and then? Has it reached is it qualified for an and then moment? Once it is seen, does it qualify for an and then?
Once it's seen, no.
Okay.
But there's a practice going on. I tend to make things into a practice. Because it's like an image. Okay, there's going to be a moment where I have to practice remembering and then returning the item.
Okay. So, but even that tendency to formulate some action which you call a practice is also observed in awareness. Can anything jump out of awareness and exist. Even the idea of jumping out of awareness arises in awareness. Is it not like this? Sometimes this simple finding can feel deeply frustrating. It's like there's no way out, there's no escape, no? Because what you're saying is basically, well, can I invent something? I'm sure there must be something I can invent that exists apart from awareness. Can it exist apart from awareness? Yeah, but awareness doesn't allow me to act and to create something. I want to be original. I want to find another way into this. But who is doing it even? Is it not just the idea you have about yourself, which arises in awareness? Rather than thinking about awareness, rest as awareness. And see, is there anything missing in awareness when you are just the awareness? Then your idea of yourself, your manifest expression, that can continue, of course. If you like sardines, hate eggs, enjoy sardines, eat eggs. It's no big deal. It's not so consequential. If you say, my liking sardines and eating eggs is going to stop me from becoming enlightened, then you will experience somehow that, look, if you want to be enlightened, don't touch eggs. Then you create all this stuff. You see, all this is driven by thought. Thought is at the root of all things like this, you see. So even thought creates the sense of being bound and also creates a sense of being free. Awareness is not free. It's not even in the realm of bondage and freedom. But the sense of being freed or being bound arises in it. How simple, how pure, you see.
So when you say don't touch or don't purchase the thought,
Yes.
that's not like a prohibition.
No.
It's not like if I do purchase the thought, there's any difference between purchasing and not purchasing. Not like there has to be a
Yes.
return.
More to find
refund
out who
line.
is doing the purchasing.
Huh?
More to find out who is doing the purchasing, you see.
Yeah.
Is it awareness? Or is it not, again, the idea that you have about yourself that feels like it needs something? In another way, let's be simple about it, no? Everything is permitted, no? You can go where you want, do what you do. If you have understood that that is simply the activity or the expression in consciousness, that awareness expresses in consciousness or in body, that's perfectly fine. There's not really anything that you're going to do that's going to make you more like awareness or less like awareness. Then something is immensely freed up, in fact. You're immensely freed up. Because you're not using measurements for awareness. You're not saying, okay, if I give up my job, live in the mountains, I'm going to be really more awareness than if I'm living in the city. So you have not created any conditions in which you have to watch out that you are not keeping up. You're completely, it's got nothing to do with it. And when it's clear that you are merely the awareness in which the idea of yourself is playing as life, and that's perfectly okay. It doesn't carry a bad smell about it. So then see if this need to say, okay, I'm purchasing a thought or not, then I say, forget about it. Purchase as many thoughts. Buy the whole world of thoughts and see if it makes a difference. I'm not afraid of thoughts. I don't say thoughts are bad. The sage also, they think, about something, read the newspapers. Something is reading it, no? But it's not having the effect that you fear. That, thoughts, I want to be in no thought. But that's also a thought. You see? So somehow something just relaxes and comes to know that that's all a play of mind, in fact. So this is why I ask you, who is the one who is purchasing the thought, suffering from the thought? Is that not itself a thought? A thought you have about yourself is experiencing and suffering from other thoughts, being observed in awareness. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Maybe hard to accept, what are you saying? I'm not good at that at all. I said, the thought that we have about ourselves, which comes as the I thought or the I concept, is itself experiencing attraction and repulsion of other thoughts, which itself is a thought, suffering from other thoughts that it is involved in. And all of that is arising in awareness. The moment that is clear, if there is very strong identification with the body and mind functioning, then that can become so opaque that somehow that qualityless, formless awareness seems to be obscured. I'm saying not obscured, it seems to be obscured. Everything is a great seeming, you'll come to see that. It appears to be obscured because of the obsession and the identification with another thought. So whatever thoughts that attention or the consciousness embraces, it's as though it merges with that thought, it takes on the fragrance of that thought. And yet at the same time, you can operate with thoughts, feel thoughts, enjoy also thought. This entire universe is thought, actually. I wonder if you recognize that. The originators, like everything around you, somehow existed first in thought, and then it somehow became concrete thoughts. Are we stuck somewhere? Is it something?
I don't think so.
No. Oh, yes.
I find myself thinking about thought right now.
That's good.
And I read last night in a book about Papa G that he said, give up God, give up the scriptures, give up the ego, and just be aware. Yes. You know, just, I have so much trouble in my thoughts. I've lived my life by God and the scriptures. The Torah was my guide. The Torah was the Old Testament.
Yes.
My guide for every move I've taken for 47 years.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here listening to the discussion about thought, thinking, okay, this is all thought. And then I look up at the sky where I used to believe God was, because I no longer believe it's just an external representation. I used to believe that God was sitting up there on Yom Kippur. In the scriptures, it says, in the prayer book, it says, who shall live, who shall die, who by fire, deciding whether I was going to live the next year based on how I was conducting myself. That used to be my concept. Now my concept is God is more like that big one heart that I was feeling before. And then I look up right through this skylight and I say, what if he is up there? Okay. Well, I have a friend who suggested to me that maybe we're having hardship and circumstances in our lives because I'm straying from the truth of the Torah. And I realize this is all just thoughts. What I'm unsure of is how to just give those thoughts up. Those are, I know it's conditioning, but is the Torah, is the Old Testament just a book? Or was it really, I can't comprehend whether it was really, as I was taught, dictated by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. I can't comprehend how to separate myself from the concepts that I've had for 47 years about those two issues. That's why the church can bother me. That's why idols can bother me. That's why I'm unsure, okay, am I supposed to stay kosher or am I not supposed to stay kosher? Am I supposed to keep the Sabbath or not keep the Sabbath? I'm at peace lately. The interesting part is I've experimented with breaking the Sabbath a little bit. And when I break it, I'm not being struck dead, I noticed. And I'm more or less at peace with it in that moment. But then later I wonder, okay, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? And again, it's
that
just
power,
thought.
that power that places this potential in you to question everything. If this is your privilege in being human being, that you have the power to contemplate yourself, and something is in you that reveals the power to question everything and to see if every rule can be broken and if any rule annihilates you. It's like the response that Jesus made when one time he was being confronted about his disciples breaking the Sabbath by eating some corn or something like that. And he said, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And what he meant by that is that these concepts are there to serve you, not to imprison you. And for a while, religion has many layers or concentric circles. At the core of them, they must meet, all of them, in one simple thing. They must move beyond formful limitation. And you have that capacity in you to discover, to go beyond merely formful representation and to be the witness of them. And when you are beyond form association, when you're beyond form, you will see that there's no fear, in fact. There is no I must do or I must not do, in fact. You feel it intuitively, that you're beyond the realm of good and bad and right and wrong and Islam and Christianity and this and that. It is naturally, this is your experience even here now, in fact. But even within that, your own conditioning can continue to express itself. You see, it's like if I'm cooking some chickpeas on the fire and it's bubbling away and I turn it off, it will bubble on for a bit. Sometimes the effects of our conditioning continues even in a completely pure sage. Certain idiosyncrasies and certain things will continue to happen, but they're insignificant, they're irrelevant, in fact. You see, if you feel, okay, I grew up in this way, and for me, only kosher food is really permitted, even though somehow I've gone beyond this idea that, if I don't eat kosher things, then I'm going to go to hell or something. But still, something still enjoys to eat this way because that's how I'm brought up. I don't see any problem with it at all. But to feel that you're fixed or a prisoner of your own conditioning, you see. Maybe as the beingness itself, what it's doing, it seems, it's stretching and yawning and spreading and just trying to squeeze itself out of those shapes that's been held you restrictive for a while. And make no mistakes about it, it must have been that the consciousness somehow, you can call it, choose to travel through that road of expression, to experience all the things that you experience, so that you can be free of them in such a total way. You see? And yet, when I say free of it, I mean free of it without cynicism. So that you are not looking and thinking, haha, I used to do that, I'm not like that anymore. Somehow there's still that respect and that understanding that somehow the world seems to cook like that. And that if I can somehow come out of this sense of limitation to see that it actually doesn't serve me anymore, then somehow I've found that I fully am, and my faith in God, if you want to say, is not injured in some way. In fact, God has moved from a stern, severe father figure to actually to be so intimate in my being that there's no separation, in fact. You see? I was brought up Seventh-day Adventist, actually, and we came from you guys. Yeah. It's one of the Christian sects, you may call, that actually came very much also linked with the Torah, Old Testament, and Sabbath, and all of this also.
Actually, be for awakened and still keep pieces of your conditioning that you like and enjoy?
If you're not attached to it, then it's not even called your conditioning anymore. I mean, as long as this body is on the planet, it's going to be moving under the sway of conditioning.
So if you're attached to it,
Yes.
let's
Then you must
define,
find out. You must find out who this you is that's attached to it, and you will come to see it's only your mind. It's only your mind, or the kind of image you have of yourself. The idea you're holding of yourself is caught up in this trap of identification.
So is the path to becoming unattached to detach yourself and see if that works for you?
What is the path, rather than saying, is to detach yourself, to remain as the awareness of whatever it is that you're perceiving. To remain as the awareness only. Then you don't have to suffer the of detachment. One
Okay.
sees immediately there is no such thing as attachment or detachment except for an illusory identity that I consider to be myself, you see, appearing in the awareness that I am.
Thank you.
You see, this is how I would put it, you know. Because sometimes even careful that the mind doesn't take up this thing about becoming detached as another task. That would have to go around and I've got to go with my shears and cut these roots. Then you see that actually cutting the roots is only another thought arising in the awareness itself. And when that is recognized, in that recognition itself, a lot of muck floats up to the surface, you see. A lot of that gets burnt by itself. You don't have to be going around with a can of benzene and matches. It just gets burned somehow by itself, in fact. And contrary, I mean, like it is saying that, I mean, if you, they say sometimes, you know, when we say that you are God itself, it's not a compliment, by the way. It's not saying, look, you know, you especially are God. It's saying that you are God. And they say, this is blasphemous. I said, no. Is it not blasphemous to think that you can be other than God? Or that you can exist apart from God? If this is your inclination. I say, I grew up initially before meeting Papaji. I met God, not like meeting you as a form in front, but happened inside my own heart, where it became clear that something was happening inside that was not, it was not like anything else that had happened before. It transformed everything about what was resident in here as me. It was already I was still there somehow. I feel like I was cooperating. I felt like I was chosen. In fact, felt very nice about it, experiencing miracles and all these things were happening. And I felt as though I was always sitting on the lap of God. This is how I felt, you know. It's a delightful place, very nice. And somehow I came to go to India, and circumstances brought me to the feet of Papaji. There was no choice. I didn't know anything about meeting any master. I went, in fact, to India with the intention of visiting the place, the abode of Sri Ramakrishna, who I'd come to know about and wanted to. He was not in the body anymore, but I felt I wanted to be in this place where I'd heard about. And that didn't happen. I ended up meeting Papaji instead. And in the meeting of Papaji, then those years of bliss and sort of merged, became more emptiness. We started to experience more emptiness. Still bliss, still emptiness.
Like the message is, when Papaji says, give up God and give up the scriptures, he's really saying, give up the attachment.
Yes. Remember, Papaji is talking to quite seasoned seekers. People who have tried many things. No? Then he may be answering a particular question. He's saying, give up your attachment. Your concept of God is still retaining and nourishing the idea of some separation in you. You see? So, you know, even that which is given up God is God itself. Giving up the attachment which creates a sense of separation even. You see? He says, stop operating as always needing something. Be free of need. Throw it away. Throw it in the fire. Throw everything. Throw until there's nothing left to throw. Yes.
Thank you.
And then discovery takes place.
ask you about be quiet and be, like sometimes you use be deeply quiet. So it's like I should say my thoughts don't come now, or be observer like you mention all the times. And to be quiet, it's really like I feel sometimes with my solar plexus I'm quiet, but my head, it's still something running
Yes,
there.
yes. Be quiet doesn't mean you don't quieten your head.
Yeah.
It means be quiet in spite of your head. It means that to let it be. If something is throbbing away, but don't engage with it. Just let it. So almost, when I say to you also, leave your existence, hand over your existence to existence. Stop caring so much about yourself. Be a witness to your thoughts. Be quiet. Don't try to fix something, to change anything. Don't go into operation. Simply keep quiet, you see. Let the thoughts run. Don't try to manage them or manipulate them. And in that, initially it might feel that's impossible even. It's like, as though the thoughts have come take you by the hand and say, come on, we have got to play. But increasingly you just stay put. And you say, no, okay. And Mooji said, keep quiet. Okay, keep quiet. Keep quiet. He said, no.
Yeah, Papaji also would
Yes,
say,
yes.
"Be
Come,
quiet, be
Papaji said,
quiet."
come, you
Yeah.
keep quiet. And the thought says, no. You know, Papaji says, keep quiet later, we play. And you sit. And so gradually something it's not something can be taught. It just be discovered. You find out, wait a minute, the ability just to be quiet is here. I mean, somebody asks you how you are so quiet, so still. You better not say. You better not say.
And from this quietness you can act like if you have to
Do it and see.
make some
Do it and see. Because
Just
you're
see.
asking too far ahead. Do it first and see.
Okay.
If in that, otherwise your mind is learning something. You might learn it and say, okay, you know, if you don't do something, you keep quiet, and then you can, no, but do it and see. First become quiet. And then what acts from quietness, you see. Yeah. And you'll see that then actions can take place, and they arise in that quietude. The thoughts, they didn't have power initially. They grew with your attention. Each thought, each one of them, they are auditioning for your attention. Please supply me a little power. Okay. And you believe in it. And then somehow you start to feel somehow it comes in as a tenant, now it's landlord. Easy. And then it's charging you rent. It's true.
A lot of rent.
Huh?
A lot of rent, right?
A lot of what?
Expensive rent.
Expensive. Okay. Okay, just send it down for me, please. You may have to come and meet it. Okay.
My mind had this great idea that I think it was yesterday or the day before you talked about Ramana and how when he was young he invited his own death or tried to do this. Yes?
Yes.
It triggered in me a memory of when I was very young. I would have in fact, just thinking about it right now, I'm getting nervous. I would have panic attacks about dying. I was certain I was going to die. And so last night, I was sort of trying to call on that panic feeling again. And I was aware that it occurred that I could see that awareness was acknowledging that feeling. Is that coming out right? Yeah?
Go ahead.
And then some question came up, which was, if I am extinguished, isn't awareness extinguished too? Like that, something like that. And I got very confused, and I just tried to stay with very confused. And then I think I fell asleep. And I guess that's my question.
If I is extinguished, is awareness extinguished?
It feels this way.
Okay. Yes. In the night you went to bed and you fell asleep. Maybe for a period you experienced some dreaming and you were still there. And if you're lucky, you entered deep sleep. And you were not there, not as the person talking now, who had experience, who had some recollection, had some intention. It's not there. In the deep sleep, it's not there. You see? In the deep sleep, it's not there. And every one of us at some point, we look forward to this condition of deep sleep. We spend good money to buy the best bed, lavender-filled pillows, to forget yourself and to forget everything, your world. Did I say that even if you went to bed and next to you was your most beloved, they cannot follow you into that state? A state where you abandon everything, your identity, your loved ones, your worlds, your dreams, your ideals, your memories also. They cannot come there with you. Everything is left. You see? And we relish that state. To go into that state where even I is not there. Even the sense I is not there. And until you come to that place where everything is laid down, every intention, every idea, every concept about yourself, all your feelings, all your senses, they leave you. Unless you go to that state, you cannot be refreshed and move healthily in the next day or something. No? So something says something about this condition where there's no perception. You enter that willingly. A state where there's no perception, there's no identity, there's no entity, there's no time, there's no relationships. You see, there's not even God. And you enter this state willingly. Were you not aware? Was awareness not there? Can there be a break in awareness? You see? To the point where if you went to bed as Sally, you wake up as Joan. Is there not something that is continuous? The identity somehow subsides. It's in abeyance for some time. And when consciousness arises again, when the light of consciousness switches on, everything wakes up again. Time wakes up. First, I must wake up. I first must come. But sometimes there's the experience without I. Maybe in the middle of the night you go to the bathroom and there's no I. And all the functions are carried out and go back to bed. There's no identity. Sometimes some of you will recall getting up even in the morning time and there's no I. There is just the light of consciousness. And then maybe something triggers the memory of I. It will come at some point. Maybe the phone rings or something is noticed and I starts. And when I starts, then time also come. Others come, space come, job comes, family come, world comes. Okay? And yesterday I think we talked about that state where all these can come in just the same way that somebody may call you sister, one calls you friend, one calls you auntie, one calls you daughter, one calls you employer or employee. And to each of these roles, something responds completely naturally, with naturalness and ease, without any change in your being. You don't have to get into role and say, okay, auntie, okay, yes, hello, my niece or something. Very spontaneously, you see. So something is taking care of all these things. In the same way, sleep, waking, dream happens to you without any change in who you are. You are the witness of them. You witness the... Now, like you know, you are observing, experiencing, tasting the conscious state. You know you're conscious right now. Sometimes you can even witness that consciousness is leaving. Something stays behind to watch even the passing of consciousness. I don't know if any of you here have been into a kind of accident or something like that, where you've watched what I'm talking happen, where you see in a very dramatic way probably that somehow something, the breath is leaving you, the consciousness also is leaving. Something watches even that, you see. Something knows also you enjoyed sleep. But what that is, it has no name, has no gender. It arises in awareness. And this is what Ramana discovered, no? That the body could become completely stiff with rigor mortis, you know. The heartbeat can slow down. Something watches the heartbeat slowing down. Something watches the images fading. That's also watched. Something is here that is so subtle that it hears even silence is heard also. Emptiness also is perceived. What is that? No answers, please. There's a silence in you which has nothing to do with whether you're speaking or not. It has nothing to do with having a quiet job or not. It has nothing to do with being quiet because you're in a cave in the Himalayas or in the middle of New York. It cannot help being quiet. That is the real silence. It's not a practice silence. There's no one being silent. There's just a silence of being. So it doesn't matter how much noise you make. You can scream the place down and it will be a scream happening in silence. It happens out of silence. And when that is recognized, even that scream, that anger comes out. In fact, it does not have the venom, it doesn't have the violence of when there is identity behind it. My master also was known sometimes for having, like, he was called the Lion of Lucknow, Sometimes you, and that's it. But that bite was grace. If he was angry with you, then you're lucky. You see? Because there was no viciousness in it. It was not personal. It appeared like it's personal, but it's not. So all your expressions, they come out, they emanate out of this form, but somehow they leave no footprints. It is like writing on water. You cannot read it 5 seconds later. Everything that fresh, you see. Who are you? In this instant, in this moment, who are you? Where precisely is your location? Can you be found? What are the coordinates to reach you? Can what you are be touched by some pointing or some finger? Can you be held or tasted or touched? You must come to know that. Don't think that what you've heard is not enough. As far as hearing, as far as recognizing, it is enough. Beings throughout time have awakened to the truth on about as much words as you've heard. It's not more teaching is required. It's not. It's not more experience. It's not more interaction. It's not more retreats. It's not better books. It's not going to India. All the things that your mind will keep using to delay that recognition. It is just like now. Whatever transpires, whatever is heard or spoken or understood is taking place in the awareness that you are. See for yourself if that awareness is less than time, or that time itself exists in awareness, you see. If you've understood that time is only a concept, a movement in awareness, awareness is the greater, you see, then how much time will it take you to be aware? So there must come also the willingness inwardly to die to yourself, in fact. I'm not going to use flowery words about it. It is to die to yourself. It is to be where you're not. Where you as you, the one you talk about, the one that has an autobiography, that lives in time and references, who is attached to so many things. To die to that idea of yourself. It can still be there as an idea. That's okay. But that's what it will be, an idea of yourself. I know sometimes we are afraid to face that and to feel that because you imagine it's going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. How can you be hurt by the truth? When you're spending so many years bearing the burden of the untrue. So if you have come to recognize, know that there's nothing, no need to wait to be healed, wait to fix something, to change something, to alter, to progress, to grow nearer, to get away from, to approach closer towards. All these are merely ideas arising in the awareness. Awareness is that goal itself. Whose goal? The goal of what awareness becomes when it manifests itself as consciousness, as presence, was to again reawaken to that understanding, that knowledge that I am that. I am that beyond even a concept, I am that. How far away from that are you? Is there a you apart from that? Apart from thought? So if you have really listened, or this is heard deep in you, then it may arise, some turbulence may come out of this hearing. You see. Are you up for it? Or have you somehow endorsed an idea that, no, that cannot be a part of it. I don't want to feel anything, I don't want to feel any nausea at all. I came here for some nice feelings. I want to leave with some 5-star feelings, and that's it. Or is it that, yes, it's a small price to pay for freedom if what it means is that some stuff which clearly is not stuff that I am giving you, but somehow to allow you to feel what you are suppressing. that may happen. It may happen. No, not necessarily it's going to happen. Maybe nothing happened at all. Maybe it's such an easy passage for you that you think, my God, I should have done this years ago. Don't look like a dread. Oh my God, now the big storm is coming. And relax. Okay.
So if everything is grace, why is it taught that we need to do anything with our thoughts? If thoughts are the one as well as everything else, why is the teaching, which has been for a long time, around doing something with these things, when that's grace too? Like it creates like another separation.
Yes.
Like the thoughts are something that we need to do something with.
I don't know if there's really an answer that can be given to that. Maybe it's inscrutable. I don't know. People ask why. Why, if we are all this, why do we have to go through all this? I don't know. Maybe it's God's movie. I don't know. That somehow through embracing ideas about who you're not and taking them to be who you are, suffering came, and then somehow coming to recognize that the suffering itself lives in your mind, created and sustained somehow through the relationship you wish to have. And it's not that things are just happening to us. We are also collaborators in our own experience quite often, no? Co-collaborator, no? And it may seem that, if only people knew this. You try and take it to them and see what happens. You see, it's only that the food is in front of you, you eat the food in front of you. And then somehow, when it's swallowed and assimilated, maybe a new way of seeing will come, and it will have some authority about it.
So right now it's the thoughts that create suffering, so we're working with that instead of, it's your left toe. So be quiet, and as your left toe arises,
Left toe is arising.
Notice the toe. So for now, what you're saying, collective conscious or whatever, where we're all at, is it's the thoughts that seem to be, quote, the path to noticing them, and then...
Don't waste too much time with it, though. Be swift about it. You see? I mean, it's not that, you need to break it. I don't know. I'm a bit lost what you're asking, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how to express what I'm saying. It's like, why do we have to cut something away? It seems like to, quote, wake up, the way that we all do it is by becoming, is like taking a thought and seeing it for what it is, or something like that, where that's grace too.
Don't try and work it out too much. There's nothing need to be cut away. For some people, according to their temperament, instructions like chopping something away works very well. They understand that it feels completely right with them. For another one, that doesn't work. It sounds too much like butchery. And so they prefer to say, okay, just ignore that, leave that aside, or something like that. And say, that's softer, yeah, I can handle that. For each, according to their capacity, that instruction come. And if there is some, just to suit your own temperament. So don't go straying or looking too far for that. It's enough? Okay.
I want to go back to what you talked about awakening. And I have this becoming really understanding that I keep going back to awakening, to source, to essence, but not recognizing myself as that I am that. And I find as you say that, it's resonating so with me as truth. And the the story or the resistance that I have is, then what does life have? Because of the preciousness of life, of loving my daughters or my grandchildren, or going for a kayak ride in beautiful nature, or
Yes.
talking with friends. Even as I say it, I begin to realize that all is still there. And I think probably this comes back to allowing that what comes forward in life is just that those things that are special and dear, they don't disappear. And that we don't have to have an effort to bring them forward. That somehow the trusting is that place.
Okay. What is so precious and dear? You say each time you come back to source, what happened? You come back to source and leave source, or what?
Well, I look for direction.
No, if you come to source, can you come to source and leave source? We say that when the raindrop is falling towards the ocean, maybe it might experience some fear. But when it touched the ocean, can it tell the story of this meeting?
Well, how about this? Just making supper. I'm not going like when I'm sitting quiet and I'm, really going and feel that presence and know it. And then when
you feel the presence, are you separate from the presence? Are you apart from presence?
No, it's just like I'm going there for guidance, and so I'm asking questions. I've said I journal, and I have experienced also where just during my everyday activities, I'll just kind of know, or I'll get a pull for something. It's just come so different, and yet it's wonderful too. So it's that stopping for grace and saying, do I want to continue this mindless activity on the computer, for example, or do I want to go for a walk? It's like, there's a part of me that wants to always be expressing that, because that's where I want to have my life.
I was picking up something from what you were saying, no? Like you go to presence, but it's almost always have an intention, you see? You go to presence for guidance. Can you just go to presence without any need for something? Can you just be presence without the need for something, like you're going to God because you want a new car or
all
you want
the
to go this?
time.
Can you just go just because you're invited into your own being just to be here?
The last 2 years, it's all I've done. I've left my job, have no guidance for anything, and I've just allowed myself just to be.
Okay.
And so I have been experiencing that,
Yes.
And I can't imagine when people see me when they go down, but I spend just time just staring at the water, just allowing myself to be in that space. So I've known the grace of that.
Yes.
But when you speak of this, we are the awareness.
Yes.
That has not been that for me. I've seen it as my quiet times where I go deeper within.
Right. So, okay. There's a saying, I want to taste the honey, I don't want to be the honey. There's a saying like that, you see. That the sense of relationship is sweet. It means that, I can still sometimes maintain the sense of myself as independent entity. But I know where to go when I feel like things get tough, and I can always retreat into my God self, because that's always there. So it's almost like that is a place of refuge for you. But you say it's not my experience, that I'm just the awareness. Let me get it right. What did you say there?
Well, from what I'm hearing, you're saying it. Well, see, now I want to say there's no need for mind anymore. I mean, let's say a job, okay?
Yes.
The usual process would be looking. I don't have to work right now. I've been graced with that. But I'm feeling like, okay, it's enough already. I have things I want to do.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of like trying to be out of the way and allowing. I want to say this right. I have a sense that this is just time for me to be quiet, But I guess what it is it's always a sense of this active participation.
Yes.
I've let go of striving, I've let go of doing, I think,
Yeah.
but there's this sense of, well, this awareness needs to be there so that I become aware.
Yes.
I'm not just living my life and not kind of being
Yes.
in that place.
Yeah, you are still living your life. You're still in the driving seat somehow. Even to say, okay, now I've let everything go, and all I do is I sit here and I just stare at this expanse of water, and so you're still something doing this. You see? Just bear with me for a moment, because I'm
Okay.
picking it in almost every sentence you've uttered. I'm catching this thing that I want to say to you, that is there complete trust here? Or are you still doing? You're still being spiritual even. What is it? Because when you are really abandoned, or you have abandoned yourself, surrendered that, then you have to allow that to express itself. Express itself as what you're calling your life now. Even you don't even notice, like my life, it becomes almost meaningless. It doesn't mean anything, in fact. I want you to hear me in the correct way. I'm not dismissing your life, or your life is nothing. I'm not making any kind of judgment like that. But you will see from inside that something is moving this body, and it's not contrary to having a job or to being a mother to your children or whatever. But it seems like something is informed from a deeper place. It's not coming from your mind or from a projection of what you think will be better, the next step to take, and so on. It's like you're not allowing any space for that God self to move. It's like something is always anticipating, maybe I need to do this now. I've done this for a few years. Now I think I ought to be doing that. So there's still an I in the driving seat deciding what needs to be done.
I have really let go of whenever that comes up,
Yeah.
like I should do this, or I was going to do some more advocacy, and I knew I don't want to be doing
And
that.
when that is let go, what remains actually?
Well,
In that instant, in that moment, what remains?
peace,
Yes.
clarity.
Yes.
I guess what I would say is then, I'll end up, then I'll really not know what to do.
Yes, then you must experience completely the state of not knowing what to do. Because something doesn't want to experience that completely, because you feel like if I allow myself to complete, I'm going to be so lost, I won't be able to retrieve any composure at all. So something is breaking into the experience to not allow yourself to feel that and to face that completely. So you're not coming to see what really is there. You're imagining that it's going to end in tears or something, a horror story or something. So you're not allowing yourself to really feel, to meet that experience directly and wholly, fully.
I thought I was till today.
Yes, yes.
So, and there is at the periphery.
Because
this-
these thoughts will come, you see.
Yeah.
Those thoughts, there are deeper layers in your psyche. They will start to come up like, okay, something needs to be happening here because I don't see that anything is moving here, you see. When you're not recognizing that as a thought, because there's identity in that thought, you're feeling, maybe my whole existence is hanging around this, recognizing this. And so you're not just sitting back as just the awareness itself, you see. Something is picking up this thought, you see.
I see.
Yeah, that maybe, like the way it's going now, if I predict another 6 months, there goes the car. And another,
Oh, no.
to take down the garage. You see, it's already predicting the outcome of what you imagine it will go if it continues like that. So you're not really open to really the magic and the mystery of life. Not that you should be into magic and mystery about it, in fact. You're not even caring about it, in fact.
I see. Thank you.
So I really allow this fullness to happen.
Yeah. I just have one more question. That's related. I keep getting when about in my journaling about seeing and picturing, and I had a vision of something. Could you just speak something about like a vision or that comes from a deep place within, not like a positive thinking kind of thing, but a real sense of.
Well, if such visions come, I'm also throwing them away. I don't care at all about it. If whatever is sending this vision must have the capacity to fulfill it, I don't care about it. I'm not looking for this vision and living into that somehow there is something that's going to come from the fulfillment of this. I'm not into that story at all.
Okay.
I'm just here. And so there is that. If something is going to unfold in another 2 or 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is, let it go on unfolding. If it's meant to do it, there's nothing can stop it.
Okay.
It does not need any assistance from me. That is my attitude.
Okay.
You see?
So you don't have to see it or picture it or that
No,
what you're
not
doing.
at all,
Nothing.
ma'am.
Nothing. Okay. Okay, I got
Okay?
it.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure you probably have heard the opposite things. Oh, yes, maybe you need to really, you know, make room for the coming and you know, and all of this type of stuff. But here I cannot tell you that. I said throw it all out. If God wants something to happen, then He has got enough ability to make it happen. Why would He want me to cooperate? Who am I
Okay.
to not cooperate or cooperate? This body belongs to this cosmic power. It will do what it wants to do with it. So in the light of that recognition, I've found only peace is here.
Okay.
Only peace is here. And also, I don't really care too much about the peace either. It's not like, oh, you know, I just want peace. I'm telling you the truth. It's not that I'm saying, oh, yes, thank us, peace only. Yes, when peace is here, it is enjoyed and appreciated. It's the proper fragrance arising out of that deep understanding. Why should peace not be here? I'm not running shushing peace. Yeah, it should be here. But if for a moment or two or for hours or days, some other state is rippling through, I also accept that, well, maybe this is the time for that. That can happen too. And in the recognition of that, there's a deeper, that's also happening in a deeper peace.
Okay.
It's not a peace that comes when there is not noise. There's a peace that has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to even call it, give it the word peace. I don't know what it is. It's the bliss arising out of that emptiness.
Thank you so much.
You know, we really heard this.
I really have.
Yes, I feel
really
you have. I feel you have it.
I really have. Thank you.
I feel you have heard it. Okay, here, please, for me.
Does it work? Yeah. Two things I'd like your feedback with. One is I don't sleep deeply at night, and so I'm tired a lot during the day.
Yes.
And one of the things that happens is I fall asleep during meditation when I'll be when I'm quiet, and that's not. It's less of a problem than it used to be, but I was wondering if you just would, if you have anything to say about that. And I have a second question, which I've forgotten.
So if you have a second question which you've forgotten, is it a question at all?
I remember the question.
Now you
Go
remember.
ahead.
Okay.
It has to do with my conditioning or the conditioning. I realize that I do not yet see the power of silence. The conditioning, what I see is that the person who has the biggest sword, the biggest gun, that's power.
Yes.
You know, the person who had the entity or person who has the power of life or death, that's power. I don't see the power of the self,
Yes.
which intellectually I know, and I think just sitting with that the truth will reveal itself to me. But I was wondering if you had anything
Yes.
you wanted to say.
You don't see the power. Maybe that's not a bad thing, that you don't see the power of yourself, because then maybe it just becomes something you do only because you can get something from it. You see? Maybe you have something, you see the power of that, so that's worth going after because it brings you something. Easy. So.
No wonder it's staying away.
You mean I got the first question as well one time?
No, I was just realized, you know, if the self is sought for power, it won't reveal itself.
And maybe the power as the mind perceives power.
Yes.
May the mind perceive power like force.
Yes.
You see? So then silence is not going to be a power that mind is going to
Yes.
respect, particularly. You know, it feels like silence is like inertia or stagnation, or, you know, what's going on there, not interesting to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
It needs to be something dynamic, something that can be measured. It has some clout.
Right.
You see?
Clout.
Yes,
Love the
yes.
word.
Yes, yes. So that silence. Maybe the two questions linked a little bit also, because also this state of sleeplessness that you speak about, I wouldn't make a big deal about it. This is an amazing world. I met one man who didn't sleep for 7 years. Okay? And he introduced me to another man who didn't sleep for 11 years. Okay? This is in Brixton where I live now. And they're still both alive, actually. I don't know if they catch up on some sleep since then, but like this. And somehow, for myself, I noticed that there was a time I was sleeping so soundly, like a baby. I go to bed, bang, off. And so much so that if a phone call came in the middle of the night, wake, take this call, and without any seeming break in my rest, responding to a call completely lucidly, put it down, okay, bye, boom, like this. So beautiful. And then for some time not experiencing sleep beautifully at all. But I just let it be, I accept it. Sometimes it's like that. I'm not trying to find the root or the explanation for things any longer. And both occasions leaving India to come back to the United Kingdom, it's as though I was fired out of India by some power. Until now I cannot see why, what is it about. I didn't ask this question. Just somehow it's like that. It's accepted. It's just like this. So for a while, sometimes there's no sleep taking place. It may occur to you. It may come by itself, even unsearched for. It might arise for you, something, you see?
Sleep occurs. I lose awareness, but there's no deep rest. That's honestly, that's what I really miss. That
there's no deep rest.
Deep rest.
Yes, yes, yes. But it's amazing that you can also sometimes get more rest when you're awake than asleep. You may find it, even in a moment like this, you may find that here, everything is still available to your senses, but there's such a rest within yourself now. And you may find, like many people who realize this already, maybe they don't need so much sleep as well too. Some people can rest profoundly in 3 minutes. That others, 8 hours, they cannot get a bit of sleep. So it's really a mystery, a real amazing phenomenon, this thing. Sometimes for a while it just seems like that. You cannot get deep sleep. And then for some unknown reason, somehow you're in sleep, you want to sleep, sleep, sleep. Can't stop sleeping. So I would not worry about it. You see? Have you been to your doctor and talk about it with him?
Yeah. I'm taking something that to help me go to sleep.
Okay.
But it's kind of things seem to be as good as they can be in terms of body-wise.
Sometimes also a doctor not sleeping. Yes, restful.
Very restful.
Restful hours in the computer. Look at that. It's not a big deal. Video Satsang.
Hello, Mooji.
Hey.
Lots of resistances coming up about grabbing the microphone.
Yes, yes.
No question. And I inquired into who even wants to ask this, and nothing. Before I fainted Friday night,
Yes.
I was experiencing displeasure and getting really hot. And this
You were experiencing displeasure or this pleasure? What did you say? Displeasure,
yeah.
not pleasure.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was uncomfortable, and I was getting, I was hot. I was very hot, and the tendency, and there was a strong pull to want to leave the room, to go outside.
Yes.
And I just kept watching, and the discomfort grew and continued growing, and I just kept watching, and then nausea came, and I was very nauseous, and the pull to leave was just getting stronger and stronger, but I just kept watching. And then I came to a point where I couldn't even move. There was no energy left to even, and I kept watching. And right before I fainted, there was an opening and a sense of peace.
Yes.
And then I fell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this thing is not also so uncommon, no? Sometimes that's what it takes for something to open up, even, you see. I would not see this as a bad experience. Oh, I fainted. Maybe it's a great thing to have happened because something maybe was blocked and needed to, even this feeling of needing to escape, to come out. Sometimes the mind also is behaving like that. It just needs to get out. I just need to get out, you know. Sometimes it's like this also, you see. And then right there, something is released through that. You see. How have you been since this moment? Since this time, how are you in yourself?
That's a trick. It just seems like a trick question.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Thank you. So, if there's perhaps one more, and then we can wrap it up for today. Okay, we'll go there first, and then we can.
I'm holding this right. Hi, Mooji.
Hey.
I'm so happy to have met you this whole weekend and to be here. It's wonderful. It's grace. You're grace. Thank you.
Very good.
My question is it possible, I'm a creative person, and is it possible to be fully self-expressed without attaching to thoughts?
I feel so completely, in fact. I think even this releases that creative ability, even better, when there is not that passionate identification behind it even, you see. But I will await your report about it.
Well, I do have a little report. This was in early September. I spoke with you on a Skype.
Yes.
And I shared with you that I had been considering starting a singing class.
Yes.
And I'd been afraid to sing or play my guitar in public for decades. And I did go. I've been to 3 of the classes. I had beginner's luck with the first one. And it felt great. I wasn't as frightened as I thought I'd be. I just let myself be in awareness and consciousness. And it flowed.
Look at that.
I remember you saying that it would turn out to be a beautiful experience in some way that would be revealed, and I knew that that was it. So I'm continuing to go to these classes and learning a lot about what singing is and what it isn't. You know, I sang my own song that I wrote, and this is going into the 5th week. It's evolving and changing every week into different formless forms and whatever. It's really great.
Are you going to sing today?
No. Next time.
Yes.
the next time you come to New York. So you'll have to hold me to it. Okay.
Very good. Great. Okay.
You know, it's funny how things go. I came here with the intention this morning to be the first one to share, and I end up being last. But I guess I want to talk about cooking.
Yes. Cooking?
Cooking.
Okay.
Cooking, inside cooking,
Or
not
inside cooking.
not cooking dinner. We were speaking earlier about ocean. I know this ocean. I know it. Over the years, the experience of knowing the ocean has become so profound. But there's also an equal and opposite reaction to it. I forgot what you were calling it, the and then. From the time I was 5, from the time I was 17, I experienced very horrific child abuse. All those emotions were stored. But there's always been a lid on it. The lids come off.
Great.
And it cooks. And it burns. And it's really terrible at times.
Yes.
And you know, I was going to mention this Friday, and I was like, no, not the time. You know, because there's so much fear about all the years going to Satsang. I've never, because this is too dangerous. You know.
Yes.
But what I notice, specifically, my work environment triggers this, and it's almost like it comes up from in back. It eclipses the ocean. It's like being in a vampire embrace. And it sucks and it draws, and you know, but it's just all the rage and all the pain, all of it just comes. And so you have to work when it's happening. I find people at work attack me. You shouldn't be like this, you're spiritual. More burning, okay. But it's you answered it, the first question this morning. Be with it. Welcome it. And I do that.
Yes.
But that child had to invent someone to be strong. And I find inside of that heat and inside of that cooking, there's always that small amount of being strong.
Yes.
And not the good strong.
Yes, yes.
The bad strong. Because it feels like to very go into the cooking, there's that annihilation. And it's just too terrifying.
Yes. Yes, thank you for saying that, for sharing that, because also what we must not do is to try and hurry up that inner strong child to get out of the way. Let it be there. Include it in your welcome to say, okay, you also can be there. You know, for as long as it needs, as long as it takes. And if you're ready to leave, you can also leave. You're also welcome to be there. You see? Not to try and, I'm talking to you, I'm feeling something. Yeah. So let everything come. And then everything can go. Unhurried. Like this, you see? Yes.
It's been years now that I've allowed this, that I've been in this stance of welcoming and cooking. And it's been years now. The recent lid coming very off is just sort of new, where it's so personal and so close.
Yes.
But it's just, I just say this just to put it out, you know, it's just overwhelming. Because there, like I said, I find myself being strong not to die. And I wish to die.
It will be overwhelming because there's a need to be strong. You see? If there is not the need to be strong, it won't be overwhelming. You see? There is a point where you just let everything come. You let everything come, be willing. I've faced this moment also. Have you ever faced this moment where you feel like if God came to you and says, look, today you come with me, leave everything, and you say, okay, Can you say, okay, all right now, let's go, cello? Can you do it? Or will you be Lot's wife, looking back to see what they can tidy up? There is something that you do inside yourself that you allow that to be that ready, to be that in the moment with yourself. I spoke also about alongside embracing and letting, welcoming whatever arises without trying to cut the fuel to it too early, to let it completely, let it cook and boil and splutter. Let it do it. And let it happen. Maybe initially you're looking at it from underneath the bed, but gradually you'll come to see that it's okay. You know, you can see that and allow that to have its full expression, you see. So when that has happened, also maybe at another point you come to learn to simply ignore things. Not ignore it because it's terrible and awful, I don't want to see it, but ignore it because you can. You see that many things are not really, not the big deal that your mind makes them out to be at some point. No? Like this. But not hurriedly. But not dragging also. So, and not waiting. Not waiting for the cooking to finish. Because waiting is also trouble. But don't be in the waiting room. Satsang is the waking room, not the waiting room. So just letting it somehow be whatever it is for the moment without trying to manipulate and to steer it and to hurry it up and to shush some things. And just let it be. And leave it at the point, come back to that point of just simple awareness. That within which all this arises. That even your life can manifest as the most turbulent expression. But the awareness within which it arises is not a victim of that turbulence. It's completely empty of it. So, great. We have come to an end for the moment. And yeah, it's been a sweet joy to be here again. You see? And there are some things that you know without having to step in your head and to ask you questions to see how deeply sometimes that hearing has taken place in you. Because when it has done, it somehow emanates as a quality, a certain quality that's indefinable. I call it like peace, a sort of silence that emanates from your being itself, you see. So, very happy that you invited me to come here again. And some of you will travel on with us to our next point. But really we're not leaving in the real sense of the word. I think you know what I mean. So I'd just like to say thanks to the friends here in New York who really put so much energy into preparing this space for us to be here. And some of them you know already. Zenji is standing at the door now. And we have Brahma here. Some of you know him as Norbert. And Monica, who is over here. And you should be introducing them. You know, they're people who are here because I'm not good with my memory about these things. Who else has been here? The family of New York. And Marian also is here. Cindy. Where's Laura? Laura here is okay. Laura is right here. Karen. Yes. Laura is actually, we changed the name Laura now already. She's Jaya. Is the same you're talking about? So I only know her as Jaya now. See? Okay. So I would just like to say thank you, and until next time, if there's next time. So thank you very much.